So welcome to this video where we will talk in details about cardiac murmurs. Here you will get everything that you need to know for all purposes. We will be clearing the basic concepts of murmurs and gradually proceeding over to the advanced. So without further ado, let's begin. First basic question. What is a murmur? Murmurs are abnormal sounds which are heard upon cardiovascular auscultation due to turbulent flow of blood. It may or may not be associated with an underlying cardiovascular pathology. So let's classify the murmurs. Murmurs can be classified based on pathophysiological mechanism and based on the timing. Based on pathophysiological mechanism, they can be classified into two: the flow murmurs or innocent murmurs and the organic murmurs. Flow murmurs, innocent murmurs are those murmurs in which there is no pathology of the cardiovascular system involved. These murmurs simply occur due to turbulent flow of blood across anatomically normal cardiovascular system, and this happens because of a hyperdynamic circulation, as in case of anemia, hyotoxicosis, beriberi, etc. Organic murmurs. These are murmurs which are heard due to turbulent flow of the blood across an abnormal cardiovascular system. Usually it involves a valvular pathology. Now, based on the timing, that is the relation with the cardiac cycle, we can divide murmurs into systolic murmurs, diastolic murmurs, or continuous murmurs. Continuous murmurs are murmurs which are heard both during systole and diastole. They stretch over the systole and diastole sections of the cardiac cycle. So now, is the murmur systolic or is the murmur diastolic? How to understand? For that, we need to have some basics. What is the first heart sound or S1? It is due to closure of the mitral and the tricuspid valves at the end of the ventricular filling phase. Therefore, the S1 or the first heart sound marks the end of the ventricular diastole and the beginning of the systole phase. S2 is the second heart sound, which occurs due to closure of the aortic and pulmonary valves at the end of the ejection phase. Therefore, the second heart sound basically marks the end of the S2 basically marks the end of the ventricular systole and the beginning of the diastole. Therefore, between the first heart sound and the second heart sound, that is S1 and S2, is the systolic phase of the cardiac cycle. And between S2 and the next S1 is the diastolic phase of the cardiac cycle. Any murmur that is heard between the S1 and the next S2, or to be more precise, just after the S1, is considered to be a systolic murmur, and any murmur that is heard after the eugenesia S2 or between the S2 and the next S1, it is considered as a diastolic murmur. So, what are the causes of systolic murmurs? First, let us understand what happens during a systole. As you can see in the picture here, systole is the phase during which the ventricle contracts. During that phase, the atrioventricular valves, that is the mitral and the tricuspid valves, are closed. As the ventricle contracts and the ventricular pressure exceeds, the pressure of the aorta and the pulmonary artery, then these outflow valves or the seminal valves open, the blood is ejected from the ventricles into the outlets, that is the systemic and the pulmonary circulation. So during the cardiac systole phase, the mitral and tricuspid valves remain closed, whereas the aortic and the pulmonary valves are opened up. So what are the causes of systolic murmurs? Systolic murmurs can develop due to two reasons. One, either there is a narrowed down or a stenosed aortic and pulmonary valves, or there is an incompetent atrioventricular valve, that is mitral valve or tricuspid. Accordingly, the causes are aortic stenosis, in which there is a narrowing of aortic valve; pulmonary stenosis, in which there is a narrowing of the pulmonary valve; mitral regurgitation, an incompetent mitral valve; tricuspid regurgitation, an incompetent tricuspid valve; and a ventricular septal defect. In ventricular septal defect, there is a defect in the ventricular septum separating the left ventricle and the right ventricle. Since the systemic circulation is a higher pressure circulation, therefore the pressures of the left ventricle is higher than the right ventricle. and therefore during the systole phase blood flows across the defect from the left ventricle to the right, resulting in a murmur and mitral valve prolapse. So how to classify the systolic murmurs? Systolic murmurs are the following types: ejection systolic murmur, pansystolic murmur, early systolic murmur, and late systolic. Ejection systolic murmur can occur due to valvular causes like aortic stenosis and pulmonary stenosis, or may be due to non-valvular causes in high cardiac output states. In ejection systolic murmur, there is a crescendo-decrescendo murmur. The murmur starts with a short gap after S1, during which the semilunar valves are going to open, that is, the aortic and the pulmonary valves are going to open. If these valves are abnormal or stenotic, then there may be an abnormal sound termed as an ejection click, and this is followed by a crescendo and a decrescendo murmur. Now, pansystolic murmur. Pansystolic murmur is a murmur which spans throughout the entire systole, that is, it starts from the S1 and continues throughout the systole to end at the S2. The valvular causes of pansystolic murmur include chronic mitral regurgitation, chronic tricuspid regurgitation, and it can include non-valvular causes like a ventricular septal defect. Now, early systolic murmur. Early systolic murmur basically have the same causes as pansystolic murmur. However, they only span in the initial part of the systole and they do not cover the entire systole. The causes will include acute mitral regurgitation, acute tricuspid regurgitation, and non-valvular cause like small and muscular VSD. In these cases, the pressure gradient between the two chambers are normalized in the mid of the systole, and since the pressure gradient declines, the blood flow also stops. And the last, we have the late systolic murmur, which is the mitral valve prolapse. In mitral valve prolapse, there is abnormally enlarged mitral valve reflex. So the mitral valve annulus is unable to accommodate the mitral valve reflex. During the contraction of the left ventricle, when the mitral valve annulus shortens, the mitral valves become incompetent and they prolapse down. And this results in a mitral regurgitation murmur, which is heard only in the late systolic phase when the ventricle has contracted sufficiently and the mitral annulus has shortened significantly, or the mitral annulus is shortened enough so that the mitral valve reflex can drop down and become incompetent therefore. Now, what are the causes of diastolic murmurs? In diastole, the blood flows from the atrium to the ventricle. During this time, the ventricle relaxes and expands to accommodate the blood that is coming from the atrium. As a result, during the diastole, as you can also see in the picture, the atrioventricular valves, that is the mitral and the tricuspid valves, remain open, whereas the outlet valves, that is the aortic and the pulmonary valves, remain closed. So, keeping this in mind, diastolic murmurs can happen due to a narrowing down of the atrioventricular valves, that is a stenosed mitral valve and a stenosed tricuspid valve, or it can also occur due to an incompetent aortic valve and pulmonary valve which fail to close at the end of the ventricular systole, causing a backflow of blood from the systemic and the pulmonary circulation into the left and the right ventricles respectively. So, therefore, the causes will include mitral stenosis, pulmonary stenosis, tricuspid stenosis, aortic regurgitation, and pulmonary regurgitation. So now, classification of diastolic murmurs. Diastolic murmurs are classified into early diastolic murmurs and mid diastolic murmurs. Diastole is basically classified into three phases. Early diastolic phase is also called the diastasis. During this time, the ventricular pressure starts falling and it becomes lower than the aorta and the pulmonary artery, as a result of which these two valves are going to close, resulting in the second heart sound. The second heart sound marks the beginning of the diastole, and the early diastolic phase is called as diastasis. During diastasis, as the ventricle relaxes further, the pressure within the ventricles fall, but they are still higher than the right and the left atrium. As a result, the atrioventricular valves remain closed. As the ventricular pressures fall further and they become lower than the atrium, the atrioventricular valve opens and there is a gush of blood from the atria to the ventricles, which is called as the mid-diastole or the early ventricular filling phase. In the late part of the ventricular filling phase, there is the contraction of the atrium, push the blood from the atria to the ventricles, which is also termed as the late diastole. So early diastolic murmurs occur mainly due to an incompetent aortic and pulmonary valve who are unable to close at the end of ventricular systole. Thereby, the causes include aortic regurgitation and pulmonary regurgitation. Mid-diastolic murmur is basically, or murmurs that are basically heard in mid-diastole due to stenosis of the atrioventricular valve leaflets, and therefore the causes include mitral stenosis and tricuspid stenosis. Early diastolic murmur is basically a decrescendo type of a murmur, and mid-diastolic murmur, especially the one of mitral stenosis, has a presystolic accentuation. It starts a bit after S2 due to opening of the atrioventricular valves. At S2, as I've been described earlier, the aortic and pulmonary valves close. Now, as the ventricular pressure falls the diastasis phase, and this falls significantly below the atrial pressures, then the atrioventricular valves open. If these are abnormal or stenosed, then there can be an abnormal heart sound which is termed as the opening snap. This is followed by the beginning of the murmur. It is a decrescendo type of murmur with a presystolic accentuation, and the presystolic accentuation is attributed to the last rapid filling phase of the ventricle where the atria contract forcefully to push the remaining blood into the ventricles. Now, continuous murmurs. They include those murmurs which span over the entire cardiac cycle, that is, they're heard both during the systole as well as the diastole. Continuous murmurs include causes like arteriovenous fistulas, patent ductus arteriosus. The ductus arteriosus is a connecting channel between the systemic and the pulmonary circulation. During the fetal life, it shunts blood from the high resistance pulmonary circulation into the systemic circulation. Later, as the baby is born, the ductus arteriosus closes. However, if the ductus arteriosus remains patent, it can give rise to abnormal flow of blood resulting in a murmur which is a continuous murmur. Mammary or uterine soffit. These are heard over the mammary and the uterine arteries respectively, and when they become engorged during pregnancy and lactation. Renal artery bruit, which is heard during renal artery stenosis. Now, a practical question: how to auscultate for murmurs? There are 3 steps. First, you need to locate the involved valve, and in order to locate it, we must understand the auscultatory areas of the precordium. As has been shown in the picture, there are 5 important areas. One is the aortic area, which is located at the right sternal border at the second intercostal space. Pulmonic area, which is located at the left sternal border at the second intercostal space. The tricuspid area, which is numbered as 4 in this diagram, is the left 4th or 5th intercostal space at the sternal border. And the 5th one, which is the mitral area, also termed as the apex of the heart, it is the left 5th intercostal space along the mid-clavicular line. The areas are named not after the anatomical location of the valves. However, these are those areas over the precordium where the sounds cross the valves conducted and they're heard the best. Therefore, when we auscultate the aortic area, we can hear the murmurs due to aortic stenosis. When we auscultate the pulmonary area, we can hear the murmurs due to pulmonary stenosis. Ops point is a special point labeled as 2 in the diagram, which is the 3rd intercostal space located at the left sternal border. This is the area where murmurs of aortic regurgitation are heard and the S2 split is best appreciated. Pulmonary regurgitation murmur is heard at the pulmonary area. The tricuspid area is the region for auscultating the murmurs of tricuspid stenosis and tricuspid regurgitation, whereas the mitral area or the apex is the area for auscultating the mitral valve murmurs, that is, the mitral stenosis and the mitral regurgitation. Now we move over to the second step, where we have to assess whether the murmur is systolic or diastolic. For this, an important clue is the carotid pulse. When you are auscultating a particular area of the precordium, first locate the murmur. Then put your hand over the carotid and try to find out whether the murmur correlates with the carotid pulse or not. If the murmur or the abnormal heart sound correlates with the carotid pulse, then it is a systolic murmur. Otherwise, it is a diastolic murmur. And then you have to assess the radiation of the murmur to the carotid by auscultating the carotid region, the apex, the axillary region, and the back, that is the interscapular area. Now, putting all of these findings together, we can understand which murmur it is, that is, what is the pathology of and which valve is involved. So, before we move on to understand some special murmurs and their characteristic findings on examination, we have to understand two special auscultated areas. One is the Gibson's area. It is the left second intercostal space away from the sternum. This is the region where the murmur of the patent ductus arteriosus is best heard, and the Erb's area, which is the left third intercostal space at the sternal border. As has earlier been said, the murmur of aortic regurgitation and the S2 split is best appreciated at this point. So now, grading of murmurs. The murmurs are graded from 1 to 6 based on their loudness. Grade 1 is that it is very faint and it is heard only by an expert ear. Grade 2 is soft and there is no trill. Grade 3 is moderately loud, then it has no trill. Grade 4 is loudness with a palpable trill. Grade 5 and grade 6 are loud and loudest respectively, all associated with a trill. In grade 5, it is heard with the stethoscope partly lifted off the chest, whereas in grade 6, the murmur can be heard even when the stethoscope is not touching the chest, it is entirely off the chest. The grading of the murmurs, therefore, is purely subjective and it indicates or quantifies the turbulency of the flow of blood across the abnormal cardiovascular anatomy. That is, it may be an abnormal cardiovascular valve or may be an abnormal connection in the vascular system, as in fistulas or PDA, that is patent ductus arteriosus. However, the grade of the murmur does not necessarily correlate with the severity of the disease in the patient. Now let us have the summary of the important murmurs. 4 important valvular pathologies have characteristic murmurs which are listed in this slide: mitral stenosis, mitral regurgitation, aortic stenosis, and aortic regurgitation. Mitral stenosis is a low-pitch, mid-diastolic rumbling murmur which is heard at the left fifth intercostal space along the mid-clavicular line. It is auscultated best with the patient in the left lateral decubitus position and it has a presystolic accentuation. Mitral regurgitation is a high-pitched pansystolic murmur which is heard at the left fifth intercostal space at the mid-clavicular line or apical area. It radiates towards the left axilla and the interscapular area of the back and is auscultated best with the patient in the left lateral decubitus position. Aortic stenosis is a low-pitch ejection systolic murmur which is harsh in character and auscultated at the right second intercostal space at the sternal border. Usually it radiates towards the carotid. If it radiates towards the apex, it is termed as a Gallagherdian phenomenon. Aortic stenosis murmur is auscultated with the patient leaning forward in expiration. Aortic regurgitation murmurs are high-pitched, early diastolic murmurs, which are heard at the left third intercostal space at the sternal border, which is also called as the Erb's area. Aortic regurgitation murmurs radiate towards the apex and is auscultated best with the patient leaning forward in expiration. Now, to answer another crucial question, which part of the stethoscope should be used for auscultating which type of a murmur? Where do we use the bell of the stethoscope and where do we use the diaphragm? For this, let us first understand the parts of a stethoscope. As has been demonstrated or shown in the diagram, stethoscope has got earpieces. It has a tubing that connects the earpiece to the chest piece. The chest piece has got a bell, a smaller one, which is used for low frequency sounds, and a diaphragm, which is the larger one that is used for high frequency sounds. Therefore, if the murmur is a high frequency murmur, then it is heard with a diaphragm. If it is a low frequency murmur, it is heard with a bell. Now, ending with a few named murmurs. Key-Hodgkins murmur. The early diastolic murmur of aortic regurgitation is termed as a Key-Hodgkins murmur. Now, Graham-Stills murmur. The early diastolic murmur of pulmonary regurgitation is named as the Graham-Stills murmur. The murmur of aortic regurgitation acute rheumatic fever is termed as Caricom's murmur. And the mid-diastolic murmur that is heard in mitral regurgitation at the apex due to regurgitant jet of blood striking the mitral valve reflex resulting in functional stenosis is Austin-Flint murmur. So in short, Austin-Flint murmur is the murmur of functional mitral regurgitation, that is the murmur of functional mitral stenosis that is heard in a mitral regurgitation patient. Thank you.